Blah blah oh. Blah blah oh. Hi, beautiful audience. And welcome to another episode of Pop Talk. I'm Cody MacDonald, and I'm back with Patrick.
Hello there.
Obi-Wan, aka Obi-Wan. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good. You a busy man?
Pretty busy, yeah.
Busy man. I haven't seen you in a while, but...
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, no apologies. As long as it's busyness, that's, progressing you as a person and you're keeping stable.
Yeah, doing what I can.
Doing what you can is all I can... It's all I hope for you. Absolutely. Dude, let's not waste any time, man. Let's get right into it. I am so fucking excited to be doing this with you right now.
Same.
Because this is, like, we talked before about films, but, like, we've gone, like, hours, and we'll try not to be so much hours on this podcast, but, like, we've gone through hours talking about what some might call, some say it's the greatest show of all time, some people say it is the greatest show of all time, but, like, we've talked about Breaking Bad to death a lot. And we're not only doing Breaking Bad today, we're doing Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and the film El Camino.
Yes.
So, we're doing both the television shows Breaking Bad, which spanned from 2008 to 2013, and Better Call Saul, that spanned from 2015 to 2022. And at the last point of the conversation, we'll just touch upon the film El Camino that was released on Netflix in 2019. So, all this stuff is pretty much the brainchild of Vince Gilligan, right? Gilligan?
I think that's how you say it.
Gilligan,
That's how I always hear people pronounce it.
Yeah, Vince Gilligan. Let's go with Breaking Bad, shall we? So I've always alluded that I'm the biggest Lost fan of all time. Like, it's like the show that's inspired me, and I will be talking about it later on this season. Don't worry, but I truly do think that, like, Breaking Bad is the greatest show of all time. Like, it's as well as, like, Better Call Saul. Just even the whole nature of this universe. It's just the one thing I can say is that it is all, like, very, very smart writing. Like, from just like a character level, from, like, a story, like, it feels like everything from all these both shows, and we'll try to focus on one at a time, but, like, for Breaking Bad specifically, there seems to be, like, this vibe where, like, the story is being driven by these characters, but it's not a character driven show. The story is just sort of, like, naturally progressed by, like, people's actions, as opposed to just it being, like, totally focused on one person. And you can make an argument it is about Walter White, but there seems to be some sort of, like, way of, like, everything makes sense and has motivation and nothing feels forced behind it. And I think that's where, like, the brilliance of the writing comes in.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So the general premise of Breaking Bad is that it follows this man named Walter White, who's played by Bryan Cranston. He's this high school chemistry teacher who gets diagnosed with cancer, and then he decides to cook meth in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's where he lives with his family, with Skyler, his wife, and his son, Walter Jr., and they're expecting a newborn coming up. And he decides to cook meth with his former high school student, Jesse Pinkman,
Mm-hmm.
to cook meth because he's already in that world. And with the stakes of being just like, Walter's brother-in-law, Hank, who's a DEA agent, of just being this looming threat, I think Walter White said best in the pilot, this whole show is the chemistry. It's about change. But really, he describes it as transformation. And that's really all that we see, is a transformed guy going from, like, a Ned Flanders type to fucking Scarface by the end.
Yes.
Yeah. So, tell me, what is your history with Breaking Bad?
Well, I got introduced to it through you, actually.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think I might have heard it offhand from one of my other friends, Corey.
Yeah.
After we had it was after I think Dexter had wrapped up. I think he started talking to me about it.
What year did Dexter wrap up before it came back?
I think it wrapped up around the same time as Breaking Bad.
It's 2013.
Yeah, I think 2013, 2012, 2013 that happened.
Okay. So so it was after
Yeah.
the show wrapped up you got into it.
Yeah, because I know it was like a year or so after. I remember you were visiting my place when you showed me the pilot.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember doing that with you.
No?
No.
You actually got my parents into Breaking Bad as well.
What? Oh my god, okay. Like,
and my mom is the biggest Breaking Bad fan I know.
wow, okay. Damn, I did not know that. I don't even remember watching the pilot with you.
No?
No.
We watched the first 3 episodes, I think, back to back together.
At your place.
Yeah, in Windsor.
I don't remember doing that.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. Well, how I got into it was in the middle of film school was one day, like, through my classmates, like, they raved about so many shows. Like, I just happened to be in a film class where, like, everybody was more geared towards television as opposed to film.
Mm.
I guess that's just was the thing. I don't know.
I mean, it's the golden age of television.
2013 was around 2012,
It's the right time frame where more and more quality filmmakers and actors were moving more to TV than movies at around that same time frame.
Yeah, totally. And one day I just said, okay, I'll throw in the pilot for Game of Thrones. I've heard so many great things about it. And I'm sorry, people, I'm just not into medieval politics. It's just not my thing. I respect the show as, like, it's technically well made, it's well acted. I just don't care about what's happening. So I was bored out of my mind through watching that pilot, and I thought, oh, great, all right, let's just throw on this next show, Breaking Bad. By the first fucking scene, I was hooked. Literally the first scene, I was hooked. I got, like, this, like, Tarantino-esque vibe to it. I got, like, this Western vibe from it, even though it's, like, a crime drama.
Definitely the Western vibe.
The hook was really just about, like, okay, where is this going with him having to pull all this off? And then just by each season, it just escalates more and more. And, my God, where do we even start with this? Like, what was your favorite portion of the show?
My favorite portion?
Yeah, like favorite season, favorite time of it. Like, is there a favorite? Like, what stands out to you the most?
I mean, the last 2 seasons in general are, some of the best TV I've ever seen.
With everything with him versing Gustavo Fring.
Yeah, him versus Gus, and then post that as well, where it's like he's the big bad.
Yeah, he starts to act like Gus.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I remember one point that I noticed, because I just rewatched the show recently. This is now my 4th time rewatching it.
Oh.
I noticed that, like, when he's, like, because when they start laundering the money through the car wash, and, like, Lydia comes to see Walt, and Walt's trying to just, like, talk to her under his breath about business, but he'd be like, oh, can I see your ticket for that, please? It reminded me of how Gus was like at the La Parra Hermanos, like, where he was just always like, hi, can I help you, sir? And we'll talk later. Anything else I can help you with today?
Yeah.
He started to become literally Gus, because Walter White is really just a guy who's been chasing power, like, throughout the whole show, really, because he felt like I got screwed over by my previous colleagues at Grey Matter. Now I want to have my own, as he put it, empire.
Yeah.
Like, it's but he makes everybody in his surroundings, in his wake, suffer.
Yeah.
Like, everybody suffers in this show. Everybody. There's not one person that he did not ruin their lives.
Well, I can say in one case.
Who?
The one person who technically benefited from Walt's existence in a weird roundabout way would have been Jesse. Jesse would have been dead by the end of the pilot if Walt didn't get involved.
I mean, in some ways, well, they saved each other's life throughout the whole course of the show.
Yeah.
Like, it really did feel like that. Like, even though that they had, like, this banter, they butt heads a lot.
Oh, yeah.
There's definitely, like, a dynamic between Jesse and Walt where Walt wants to feel like a teacher.
Yeah.
And Jesse is just, like, that delinquent still. But Jesse doesn't know his full potential yet.
Yeah.
But with Jesse, I saw a lot of, like, so many opportunities for him to clean up, not just drugs wise. I'm just saying, like, when he started to settle down with Jane, like, it was funny at that point where, like, Walter gets the news that he's in remission, and he has like almost $500,000 that they just cooked, and there's not any traces. They're just cooking by themselves in the RV. He gets the remission. The moment he starts punching out that air dryer thing in the bathroom is the moment where I'm like, okay, like he clearly is in it for way more than just wanting to support his family after he supposedly dies from cancer. Like he's in it for himself. And even though you don't see it at first, it's like it just takes so long for you to get so convinced that it's more than just him wanting to support his family. Because what's so funny is that when Skylar finds out about Walter and when she wants nothing to do with him, and then that whole when Hank almost died from the cousins, the Salamanca cousins, that kind of brought everyone kind of back together. And then at that point, I noticed Skylar, she did the whole lie about Walt gambling and all that, which totally took Walt off it took him off guard completely. But Skylar is the one who actually starts to like do what Walter claims he was doing by supporting the family. Like she's the one that took that money and supported Hank's medical bills through that process. But what did Walter do? Nothing. Like didn't even offer it really.
He made the money, but Skylar's the one who was like, we should give the money.
Exactly. But with Jesse, it was like there was a point where I was noticing, okay, he clearly has an infatuation towards young kids that...
You mean like an affection?
An affection, yeah. He has an affection for... What did I say?
An infatuation.
If I would have said erection, I would have been like...
Well, infatuation basically implies a very similar thing.
Oh, God, no. He has a deep affection towards young kids that he doesn't want to see them grow up under his circumstances. You know, like with his younger brother, right? Even with the peekaboo child. You know, and then I think at that breaking point, like when he almost thought like Walter poisoned Brock, which he did. But he's the most convincing manipulator of all fucking time because I was convinced. Were you convinced too?
I was convinced too.
It was the most convincing lie I've ever heard in my life. The Lily of the Valley, is that what it's called? Yeah, like oh my God. But the breaking point was like after the excellent train heist episode. When fucking Todd kills the kid on the bike, Jesse's like, that's it, I'm done. Like 100%. And the fact that Walt shows no fucking heart or compassion just shows that they are on two completely moral compasses. And I'm watching the show like, yeah, like there's points where I'm like, oh God, it's so messy at the beginning with the RV and they don't have a distributor and like, you know, things are not as sophisticated until they meet the world of like Gus and Mike and Saul, right? Backing them up. I felt like my moral compass does not match with Walter.
No.
When he starts punching out the air conditioner, I was like, I'm not there. I don't feel, I'm just more fascinated on where this is going to go.
For me, it's actually back in season 1. I was mentioning this earlier. It's in the episode Gray Matter, the 5th episode. Like Walt is basically offered a get out of jail free card. We'll like pay your medical bills, everything.
Gretchen and Elliot.
Yeah, but his pride won't let him do it.
Nope.
In fact, the end of the episode, right when he's going to meet up with Jesse again to ask him if he wants to cook again, right before is when he gets the call from Gretchen getting a second chance at taking the offer. It's literally a left or right situation, and he still chooses to go for Jesse and his pride.
You just feel like, because it's motivated though. Even though you don't sympathize with what his choices are, you definitely identify where it came from. That's the brilliance of the show, really. So, going back, when you said like your favorite portion is like 4 and 5, was it because of like everything that was built up before? Or?
Yeah, I tend to find that with both shows. We'll get into the other one later, but they have a track record where their first few seasons are building up and figuring themselves out.
Foundation.
Yeah, a lot of foundation, and then the last couple seasons tend to be the highlights.
I felt that too, actually, with both shows. Were you satisfied with a lot of the characters' arcs in their journeys throughout Breaking Bad?
Throughout Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
Most of them, like, for sure, like, Walt and Jesse are ultimately the big ones, like, obviously.
But, like, even, like, the secondary ones, do you feel like that it was satisfying, you know, at least by the end?
Like, for the most part, like, because I can say for sure with Breaking Bad, like, the big difference is we really mainly follow Walt and Jesse more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And they're the ones we really want to watch. Anyone else, like, say, Walt's family, their stories are less engaging for the most part. To me, they're more just... I almost see them as, unfortunately, props to Walt's story in a weird way.
You think Junior's like that?
I see Junior as that, personally. Like, you know, he's like, yeah, he's the son, you know, who doesn't know what's going on. But Skylar, I'll always say this about Skylar. I cannot stand her character. Anna Gunn plays her beautifully, but I cannot stand her character at all.
Really?
Yeah, I do not like her as a person, but... I will say, she's not wrong. Like,
oh no,
like
dude,
like I will always say this throughout the show. Like the second half of the show, I tend to feel bad for her a lot.
Oh, 100%.
Like I still might not like her, but I still am like, no, you still don't deserve what you're going through.
You sure you're not talking about Marie? Because Marie is the one that has like, okay, I described it this way, and this will make you laugh. Okay. Hank is the quintessential uncle who doesn't have a filter, and Marie is the quintessential Karen who's destined to be viral. That's how I gotta differentiate the two.
You're not wrong.
Marie has like just like this strong entitlement and always wanting to be getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one portion where I think where Hank was like. Kind of, it was after the incident with the Tuco, or sorry, not Tuco, the cousins. Sorry, the cousins.
Yeah.
Where she was like, you know, going to open houses and like, you know, stealing.
Oh yeah.
Well, she's always been.
She's
stealing.
a kleptomaniac.
Yeah, and it's like Hank really doesn't know if she's like the right one to be supporting him around this time, really. But I also kind of felt bad because. That was the only time I felt bad for Marie, actually.
Yeah.
Where it's like, she doesn't know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow they kind of mended it some way, really.
Yeah, I will always say that, like, the big difference between Walt and Skylar versus Hank and Marie is, even though they both have clear issues in their relationships and argue all the time,
yeah.
Hank and Marie seem like they actually have a better relationship because they're able to mend things.
You think so?
Yeah, like
better relationship than Skylar and Walter?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Because, like, Walter's pride is too far gone. Like, because he's either... He doesn't really have a middle ground between the Mr. Chips or the Scarface.
Yeah.
Like, it's either one or the other. If he's Mr. Chips, he's too submissive and, like, just goes with the flow, and he's just clearly miserable.
So what is it about Skylar that you don't like as a person?
It's just her general attitude. She comes off very condescending, like, even before, like, anything, like, is going on.
Really?
Yeah, I actually, when I was showing my girlfriend this show, the first few episodes, actually, after the pilot, I actually asked her what she thought of the wife, and you know, she was kind of like tiptoeing around saying she did not like her.
Really?
Yeah. And when I told her that a lot of the fans don't like Skylar either, she was like, okay, good, I'm not alone. And then she was more open about she just could not stand her.
My name is Walter White. Or no, sorry, my name is Skylar White, yo.
Yes.
Her husband is Walter White, yo. I mean, her being all, like, earlier on, sure, but the fact that, like, Walt has just been so wish-washy and coming up with excuses, like, why are you out, you know, throughout the night?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I would be totally on her side.
Oh, like that's what I mean. Like, she is right.
Yeah.
But, like, even before a lot of that, the show does establish her, unfortunately, as kind of a nag, which is...
Okay.
Like, you know, I will say, like, because at first I thought maybe that was intentional, but with interviews with Vince Gilligan, it seems like that wasn't the intent. He actually... It
just came off like that? Or?
Yeah, I think he said that, like, he does regret how, like, he portrayed Skylar a little early on, because a lot of people sided with Walt even in the bad times because of it.
I just kind of looked at her as kind of, like, naive and innocent before she ends up getting, like, the whole world kind of crushed under her belt, and she's almost going through a middle life crisis herself, because when she starts to be like, well, my husband's probably not going to survive this, and like he's also being kind of like distant and weird, and like coming up with these really elaborate excuses of why he's not showing up.
Oh yeah, like she's not wrong with any
Yeah.
of that for sure. Like
The whole Ted thing was like a mistake, but justified.
yeah, like that was
Like-
that was the only power play she had left at that point.
Totally.
Like Walt,
Yeah.
like she couldn't do anything to stop Walt, so she did the only thing she could do to hurt him at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. The other day, I come home and Veronica was like, kind of like miserable looking, and I'm just like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, she's not saying anything, and I'm starting to get kind of scared, like, "Oh shit, what did I do? What did I do?" And then she literally walks up to me and she whispers, "I fucked Ted." I was like, that became like a quote for a while. It was like we just had to say, "I fucked Ted."
Oh god.
And after that, I was like, "Oh, you did? Okay, sweet, cool." I'm happy you did.
Oh, that's
Well,
good.
you and I even have a running joke with Ted where you have kind of like a very like slippery mat.
Oh
You're
yeah.
a doormat, and every time I slip on it, you're like, "Don't pull a Ted."
Yes.
Oh, fuck him. He guy should have paid his taxes. He deserves what he got. What goes around comes around. Oh my god.
Oh, actually, speaking of quoting Breaking Bad with a girlfriend,
Yeah.
just it's back on like the Skylar thing. Actually,
Yeah.
like we actually occasionally quote quotes from her in the first episode, like just the ones that she found really annoying.
Yeah.
Like no, any.
I remember one, but go ahead.
Oh, one of the ones that I quote a lot that really bothers her is, "Oh, you're so very late." It upsets her so much.
Didn't she say something like, "We only use this credit card for this type of thing"?
Yeah.
Or just something
Well,
like
that's
that.
the card we don't use. I quote that a bunch too to her.
Skylar, just for once, climb out of my ass. just for once, climb out of my ass.
That was probably the only only Walt quote that Carolina was in support of.
I love it. Who are your favorite characters on the show?
I mean, everybody's favorite character is usually, I find, Jesse.
Yeah.
Like Jesse's
But
like
for you, but for you.
like Jesse's my personal favorite
Yeah,
as well.
okay.
Like he's the only one I consider like a truly likable person.
Oh, totally.
Like at least out of the major cast of characters.
On the outside, it seems like, yeah, he's like this punk kid, and like,
Mhm.
but like deep inside, he's got like a heart of gold.
Yeah.
The circumstances around him doesn't like allow him to like shine. You know,
Mhm.
and also just how Walter has completely ruined his life
Mhm.
at numerous times.
Yeah.
The Jane thing
Oh
was
my
almost
God.
hard. It was almost hard to like comprehend.
Yeah.
Letting Jane die and choke on her fucking puke was just like.
And he was also the one that
Right.
unintentionally knocked her onto her back.
Right.
So
Yep, I
if he
noticed
hadn't
that.
come in there, she would have survived.
Puked on Jesse's back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wake up, everything's good. But who
But I
knows if
love
they
how
would've
it was
cleaned
an
up, though.
unintentional part, though.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think Andrea. I think everything.
Actually,
was, yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead.
know if
Yeah.
you know this, the behind the scenes about that.
No.
When they were making the show, I had read this somewhere. Vince Gilligan, when he was writing season 2, he had actually intended for Walt to straight up kill Jane. And this is something that I like about him, is he takes a lot of advice from his wife in particular, and she gives a lot of good advice, and she was one of the people that said, no, this is too soon for
Too
it.
soon. It's not until those two turf guys
Mhm.
ran
Yeah.
him over with the car
Yeah,
and
this is
shot the guy.
too big a jump for him at this point, and
Even the Crazy Eight
changed it.
thing felt like a last minute resort of self-defense. But
Yeah.
it wasn't until those two turf guys that Jesse almost got himself killed.
yeah,
from that.
and he did it
Yeah.
specifically just to save Jesse there.
Save his own ass in a way.
Yeah, at the same time.
But toying him to use him to be like, all right, now you have to be the one to kill Gail. He
Yeah.
fucking almost sold out Jesse when Mike and Victor were going to kill him in the lab. He's like, I can tell you where Jesse is. Please don't kill me. He was going to sell him out.
Well,
I couldn't believe that.
Well, I don't think he was actually planning to sell him out. He was using that as an excuse to get in touch with Jesse. That way he could tell Jesse, kill
Where
Gail.
Gail,
Yeah.
But who knows if Jesse was going to wanted to do that, though.
Mhm. Well, Jesse clearly didn't want to do it. Walt knew
Yeah.
that ahead of time, but he also knew that if push came to shove, Jesse would do it to save them.
Still, just adding him to the equation, just, I don't know, it just
Yeah.
felt a bit of
It
like a
oh, it's
sellout.
awful.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, we can compare that scene to a later scene in Better Call Saul with Mike killing somebody, but we'll get there later.
Yes. If I know, it's the earlier on you're talking about, right?
Season 4.
Season. Well, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of something else.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna add on to say something about Jesse, where I think Andrea and Brock really brought out the best of him after Jane, because like here he meets someone through recovery, right? And also,
wasn't that after Jane and Gale?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's after when he was trying to clean up. Him and Badger and Skinny Pete, I guess, cleaned up as well. They'll never be clean. Those two will never be clean.
No.
They deserve their own spin-off.
Oh, I'd be down for that.
But I think because it's again, it goes to what I said about Jesse just having like a thing towards Brock, because like, you know, the peekaboo thing showed like that episode showed like a great like difference of humanity between Jesse and Walt.
Oh yeah.
Because like Walt just basically tells Gretchen to go fuck yourself in that episode, and like and Jesse is just like really being like, this kid does not deserve to be in a fucking crack house with these crazy lunatics that like crush their fucking skulls with an ATM machine, and like he does not deserve to be here.
No.
But I think there's so many points where it feels like he's gonna get better, but then it's just fucking Walt's fucking influence.
Yeah, Walt keeps bringing him back down.
Always bringing him back and finding some way to toy it. Yeah.
Like, I think I was mentioning this earlier, like, the one element that of Walt being good for him was literally their first, like, episode together. Because Jesse, like, remember, he was actually getting blamed for, who was it? Emilio, was that his name?
Emilio.
His old partner.
Oh, yeah.
Emilio thought that he was the one who ratted him out when it was Crazy 8.
Right,
and so, if Walt wasn't involved, he technically would have been killed by the end of the pilot.
Yeah, they save each other.
Yeah, but, like, other than that,
well,
like...
I think more Walt saves Jesse more than anything. That carries out even till the very end of the show.
Yeah.
Like, where it's like he didn't have to, but he still did. Multiple times, actually.
Well, Jesse saves him a fair number of times as well. Like,
I find Walt does it more, even though
it's more in indirect ways, where, like, Jesse, like, killing Gale saves them, saves Walt, buys him some time.
That's true.
Also, Jesse was the one who like, told Mike and Gus, like, don't kill Mr. White.
Right.
And so that's why Gus just brought Walt out to the desert to threaten him instead of just kill him right out.
See, and that's something where, and I know we're going to get into Better Call Saul, but that's something I noticed about Mike, where everything that was established, and I have to really point out that Mike is at his best in Better Call Saul.
Absolutely.
When you get to learn the stuff about, like, his son. So if my memory serves me right, it was that his son got mixed up with some crooked cops, and then Mike found out who these cops were, killed them, and that's where he delivered that whole great monologue, like, I broke my boy.
Yeah, like, because he got involved with crooked cops. Mike himself was a crooked cop as well. It was just part of the whole thing, and I remember the monologue he was giving. He explained that, you know, his son, you know, wasn't sure what to do because he was an upstanding guy.
Yep.
And he went to him for advice, and Mike told his son, like, take the bribe, just be part of it, right? Yep. And he did, and his son felt awful about it, but the other crooked cops realized that he wasn't as in the game as them, so they killed him anyway.
Right.
So even his bit of advice to stay part of it and keep safe didn't help. It just ended up breaking his moral code.
I was just gonna say, like, that establishment kind of makes me realize that, like, having Jesse being almost like promoted to almost like his assistant, doing all these runs in the middle of season 4, I believe, kind of makes it seem like, is this Walt's, or I keep saying Walt, sorry,
Mike.
Is this Mike's way of, like, almost like having like a redemption of, like, being almost like a father figure And especially after Nacho.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nacho as well. Nacho was the other building block for that.
I know we're toying around. We're gonna get to Better Call Saul in a second.
These shows, like now that Better Call Saul's done, these shows go together so well.
There's a lot of parallels that really like change your perception on each other's, everything. Really. It's very fascinating. I've never seen anything like this.
I know.
Where one like foundation of a franchise is also completely recontextualized by a spin-off. Not only a spin-off, but a prequel.
A prequel and a sequel to an extent.
A little epilogue movie.
Yeah,
yeah.
The last few episodes.
Oh my god. Yeah, we'll get to that. But are there favorite episodes of Breaking Bad that you have?
Well, naturally we have the obvious one of Ozymandias.
Ozymandias made me want to have Pepto-Bismol. Like I was physically ill. Like cause so going back when I binge watched Breaking Bad that summer of 2013, I watched the last remaining 8 episodes while it aired. So everything that I binged up until the pilot and then up until when Hank found out sitting on the toilet, like wait, WW, yeah. Like from that point on, those last 8 episodes was like I studied those last 8 episodes. It was just that this is the climax. This is it. Like we're getting close to this end, and it deserves everything deserves a rewatch again. I should have done that at the time, but Ozymandias was just. I felt sick. I literally felt sick to my stomach. The knife fight in that kitchen, and just the way the camera backs away when he's like, "We're family, we're family." And it took me a while, and I know you and I had this discussion too, where Walt did the really genius thing on like making Skyler look like she wasn't a part of this on the phone.
Yeah.
At first, I thought he was just ranting out.
I thought the same thing lashing. The first time watching it.
But you were the one that discovered that. Wait, he's just clearing her name of this because he knows they're being wired. They're being heard by the cops.
Yeah, if you're paying attention to what the words he's saying are, you start to see that they're not accurate with what we've seen.
Right. Because earlier on in that episode, when we had, fun fact, that flashback of them in the desert in the early days in the RV, probably just the first few days when they were cooking and then they were on the phone, and Scott was like, I think I'll name, what about Holly? He's like, yeah, Holly. That kind of side profile is very nicely contrasted between the light during the day to the darkness of him going, I told you to keep your mouth shut, you stupid bitch.
Yeah.
It's like this side profile on the phone that's just contrast to this dark and light, Like and the fact that the knife block was so subtly set up at the beginning of the episode when she picks up the phone, it's centered on the knife block, and then later on in the episode, when Walt is trying to tell the truth, but Skyler's not having it because when the fuck has she ever had Walter tell the truth about what happened to Hank? She's like, you killed him. I know you killed Hank.
Yeah.
It's so fucking brilliant.
But
the writing, the direction.
But even on top of that, like even if he didn't do it directly, Hank still died because of Walt.
Oh my god. And Steve Gomez. We can't forget
about
Steve Gomez. Oh my god.
We love Gomi.
Gomi, yeah.
Speaking of that Gomi, one of my favorite Gomi moments in the whole show is when he catches the lawyer. Was that who he was? Like, he was delivering the money in the accounts.
Oh, in the accounts. Yeah. Mike's accounts. And then he's at the doorway.
Yeah. And he's just like, hi.
Hi.
And then Gomi just smiles back. Hi. It always kills me.
The part that kills me is when it was a Mike line. Mike had the funniest line where this is when Lydia starts to be into the picture and helping them out. When she was the one that warned Jesse, wait, I think that barrel of methylamine is tampered with. It's probably bugged. And Mike was like, wait a minute, Jesse. Was it you or was it Lydia that noticed that it was bugged? And Jesse's like, oh, it was Lydia. And he went, all right, she's dead. I'm going to go kill her. Like, just the way he said it. Like, she's trying to get out on this. She's the one that did it. And no, she wasn't.
Yeah.
But just the way Walt's like, all right, she's a dead woman. That's it. I'm done. He's just had enough.
Yeah.
They have a little bit of history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Subtle.
Yeah.
Very momentarily. And Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are other episodes that are so... Face Off.
Oh, yeah.
Literally.
Literally.
I remember when I saw that the first time. was like 2 in the morning, and I'm just still in the middle of binging this show, and like that explosion when that went off, I like got up and slammed my fucking hand on the coffee table, hoping I didn't wake up KJ, who was sleeping in the other room. And then I was like, wait a minute, he's stepping outside the room? What? And then it's just like half of his body's gone.
Yes.
And then it's just, he dies. I'm like, face off. Oh, okay, that's great.
I remember when I saw it, like after he walked out, my mindset is, how the fuck is he still alive? Like, what's it gonna take to kill this man?
Oh my god.
And then that camera pan. Oh.
Mr. Salamanca, Hector Salamanca. Like, what great facial expressions that he had in that show.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even just in that last moment, I was talking to Veronica about this, where you can kind of see him, like, hesitating, but also accepting. You see, like, a little bit of humanity in such a nasty human being. Like, Hector Salamanca was a fucking terrible human being.
Oh, of course.
Murders his fucking, Gus's partner way back in the day, which started this whole fucking
I always think
off.
of that flashback with the cousins when they were kids, and...
Oh, when he holds one of them under the, in the cooler.
Yeah, to teach them a lesson.
Well, that happened right before the cousins were killed in that episode. Because, like, I guess they want to humanize these people a little bit. To see where they came from. Mm-hmm. But just seeing the face of, like, Hector Salamanca, like, you're just seeing, he's almost about to cry, but at least he's accepting, at least I'll be with Lalo and my cousins.
Yeah.
And Tuco. And then he just has, like, this fuck you rage face.
Yes.
And just starts, like, tapping the fucking bell.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Oh, it's
so
one
good.
of the most satisfying villain deaths in any show I've ever seen.
Oh my god. And Gus was a great part of the show.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean, the guy literally can go from, like, what's the actor's name again?
Giancarlo Esposito.
He is such a powerhouse in this. Like, he can literally go from, like, hi, was your meal to your satisfaction, to I will kill your entire family. Like, what the fuck?
I will kill your infant daughter.
I will kill your infant daughter. Like, it's just... so good. Or just when the assassins in the cartel were trying to take him out, and he just walks out and just puts his arms out like, what?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? You're just gonna cause more problems even if you kill me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Like calling their bluff.
Calling their bluff, absolutely.
Oh my god. Yeah, I always love also about, like, speaking of Gus as well, is how, like, all of the villains in both of these shows actually, like, are, like, kind of, like, representatives of, like, in very different things. Very different. Like,
you're talking about that, yeah.
Gus is very much, like, the representation of capitalism, you could see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
He is pure business, nothing else, no personal life whatsoever.
Yeah.
Tuco is pure chaos, psycho energy.
Oh my god. Well, I mean, I know we'll get into it, but it's great to know why he was in jail. Because when him and Mike had the conversation.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's a nice, like, organic...
Yeah, it's true. Or, the cousins are just a force of nature.
They're like Terminators, almost.
Literally.
Like, did they even say a word? I think they did once.
Maybe.
When they were buying guns, they were buying the vests off that one guy. I think he said one word, but I don't even remember what it was.
I think they speak more in Better Call Saul, and they're in it even less.
That is true.
Yeah.
Wow. No, that is a good point. You brought up that the Salamancas, they all have different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I like one really good episode. We were talking about it before recording, but the 4 Days Out episode.
Yeah.
In season 2, where, like, Jesse and Walt just, like, cook, like, a madhouse, and they realize they got, like, $500,000 each.
Mm-hmm.
But then their RV gets stuck.
Yeah.
And then it's just sort of them working themselves out almost, you know? Like, it's really satisfying. I love also... I know that, I mean, I want to know if I'm right on this, but, like, were fans actually disappointed with where the whole black and white teddy bear and color thing went? Because I think it's actually quite great.
Okay, I can only...
Thematically, it makes sense, but you put too much thought into it, like, oh, what's it going to mean, what's it going to mean? Of course you're going to be let down.
I can only give my own personal experience with it. My first time seeing it, I was a little, like, caught off guard and disappointed. But like every rewatch since then and sitting on it, I'm like, no, this is actually brilliant.
It
Like
is.
pretty much every time I watch either of these shows, if I think of something where I'm like, I'm a little disappointed by this, the more I sit on whatever it is, the more I tend to be like, no, I actually really like this.
Like Walter's choices caused devastation in ways that he did not expect, and the fact that he pieces it together too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I talked to the same man that night at the bar, who's Jane's father, who's all distraught because he loses his daughter. That causes these two planes to fucking collide.
Yeah.
And it that whole thing, I forgot how much like it really affected the community where they were wearing like the patches.
Yeah, in season 3 in particular. Yeah, like that had a big impact on the 3rd season.
Even his thing of just like, we all just need to learn how to move on.
Oh yeah.
It's just, that's his way of like trying to.
It's like his way of trying to like. It's his form of denial. Like he never wants to take responsibility for his actions or his mistakes.
No.
I mean, that's literally his driving force of his pride. Like his big mistake with gray matter back before the show.
And everything is tied back to that.
Yeah.
Everything. It's crazy that, like, to think if he would have, like, stuck around, like, say his whole life was exactly the same, like, kids, wife, and everything, but he just happened to be, like, in this successful business, could he have still turned out as a criminal, or did this whole, like, middle-age crisis and, like, this guilt and this anger build up in him that he just... Like, I just wonder, did that all build up? Because he's always been a smart man. He's a genius.
A lot of that resentment, the vast majority of it does stem from the whole selling out of gray matter. So I feel like had he not done that, he wouldn't have gone down that path. Cause
that's probably why, and it's a scene that literally sends chills up my spine. Like, I get so entranced in the scene. It's near the very end. It's the end of the second last episode. I forget the title of it, but it was when this is after like this whole Ozymandias. It's Greek for like an empire, the god falling from grace.
Yeah,
I think that's what happens to literally him when Hank falls, or when Hank dies, he falls to his face.
Yes, that shot that's become a very famous GIF online.
Pretty much, yeah. But it was during the bar scene when he was trying to offer on the phone all the remaining money. This is him in the middle of the woods somewhere after he called the vacuum guy, and he's like, he's hiding out. He calls Walter Jr. and tries to offer this money, like, please take it. It will all be worth for nothing. But he just wants his son, like, Walter just heartbreakingly turns him down, just fucking die, you know.
Doesn't want anything to do with his dad.
And then he just calls the cops. He's like, I'm here, find me, whatever, I give up.
Yeah.
And then when he sees Gretchen and Elliot doing an interview on the TV, just the
undermining his role in the building of the company, just saving face for the company that gets that.
They're protecting their own image.
Yeah.
They're like, all he had to do was, the contribution was the name. That's it. And you can just hear this ambient, like, just building tension.
Yeah.
And then he just knows that, like, his blue meth is still being sold because fucking Todd and all those like crazy guys, Uncle Jack, are all holding him captive, Jesse, to cook all that.
Yeah.
When you hear, is Walter White still around? No. And then just like this pounding heartbeat, this ambience just works its way into the main theme of the show.
Oh yeah.
And just like Heisenberg is just all that's there, and the man that we knew is gone. And then it's just like when the cops show up and he's gone, it's just like it's a perfect capsule of just like, here we go, we're gonna get a fucking great finale. What do you think of the finale?
It's one of the best, if not the best finale I've ever seen. The only competition I can think of we'll get to later.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
But like, I was actually gonna mention this as well. Like, in the finale, it's the only episode where I find Walt completely likable.
Yeah.
Because like at that point, the pride is pretty much gone.
Gone.
It's like he isn't there for himself. He knows he's dying. He's just there to tie up loose ends, clean up as much of the mess that he made as possible.
Closure with Skylar.
I did it for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to some quotes later on. I have a dozen quotes that are literally the course of action of Walter White, but. Yeah, saying goodbye to Holly one last time, seeing one last look at Walter Jr. it's perfect for Jesse to strangle the fuck out of Todd.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it any other way.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Walt has to just put a gun to fucking Uncle Jack's head and blow it away.
Yeah.
Like even just the whole fucking rigging the giant gun.
Oh,
and
yes.
just tearing them apart was so brilliant. And then just one little last thing of just Lydia, just like, oh, I put some ricin in your stevia, which I criticized at first. I thought, is that a stretch? And I've now forgiven it. I'm like, this guy fucking rigged a bell with a bomb on a wheelchair.
Yeah.
This guy, he took he split a wire from a lamp
Yeah.
to like melt like when he was handcuffed.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't a handcuff, but it was like a piece of like hard
Oh,
plastic.
zip tie.
Like a zip, zip tie. He melted that. Like,
Yeah.
there's been ways that creative ways that he's been able to do this.
Mm-hmm. He absolutely could get the ricin
Yes,
in
science.
there.
That's the excuse. Yes, science. How was he be able to do that? Yes, science.
Yes, science.
Yeah. No, it's so fucking satisfying. The baby blue song.
Oh,
is
yes.
perfect. It's actually my favorite montage, and I think in any show or movie ever was the Crystal Blue Persuasion.
Oh, yes.
At the end of the
It's in season.
it's in the last season. It's like right before he said, "All right, I'm retiring." But
so it would have been the mid-season finale then.
it's when Todd was his
new
assistant,
partner,
and
yeah.
Lydia was sending it across seas.
Yeah.
Skylar was laundering it, and fucking Saul's just like, "Oh my god, I get my cut, but I'm just like downing alcohol. I want to be out." Yeah, but like it's the greatest.
Well, at that
it's
point,
so
Saul's
well-timed.
even scared of Walt. So.
Yeah. The cinematography, the editing,
Yes.
just even the choices of shots they do sometimes. Like I remember they had the shovel, like when Jesse did the funny thing by distracting the crackhead with the shovel, like digging in the yard. Like the camera was attached to the shovel.
I love when they do shots like that in both shows.
Yeah.
Because they use them very sparingly.
Very sparingly, yeah.
That's what makes them work so well. 'Cause
Yeah.
they never overuse like the really creative shots.
Yeah, we can almost do like every episode breaking down.
I know, right?
There's so much. I don't know if I'm just leaving anything important out, but it is truly like an addictive show to watch.
Really?
Like it's binge worthy. I almost have to like take my time with it sometimes.
Yeah.
I have to let it digest. Like because it's funny rewatching it recently. I remembered all the big beats, but I forget all the little things that led up to it.
Right.
Like I was like, wait, when did this character come to the picture? Oh yeah, this is how this happened. Oh, this is how this happened. So there's a few things that I was actually like, yeah, like I'm surprised to discover this kind of again for the first time, if that made sense.
No,
like,
I get that. I'm rewatching the show right now, showing it to my girlfriend, and literally like Tuco just died in the episode we watched.
Right.
And I was looking up, when does Saul get introduced again? I'm like, it's several episodes. So I was trying to remember, okay, what happens in between here? Like, because there's a lot of episodes. So, like, what round am I missing? It's been a while.
Well, speaking of Saul, or Jimmy McGill, let's get into Better Call Saul, Pat. So, if I'm not mistaken, you think this show is better?
It's a tough call. I think both are like easy 10 out of 10s.
Wow.
Like I really struggle between the two now that both are done.
You are the biggest Better Call Saul fan I know. You're probably the only fan of this show.
Yeah, I find the show honestly like the people who really watch it love it, but a lot of people gave up on it too soon, I find.
I was guilty of that at the beginning.
Yeah, I know.
I kind of felt like, why bother? I got this vibe of like, Saul is like a very great small piece of a big picture, but why focus on him?
Yeah.
And just because of how slow it was at the beginning, I only watched just the first season, and then that was it.
Yeah.
But then, you told me that it gets as good as Breaking Bad, and I was just like, okay, it's weird how I got you into Breaking Bad, then you got me into Better Call Saul. It's like this weird little, like,
yes.
Everything came full circle almost. where I think this is like right at the end of season 4, right before season 5.
Yeah.
Because really, realistically, you watched it way more than I did. I watched as it aired Better Call Saul more than Breaking Bad because I went through seasons 5 and 6 while it was airing.
Yeah.
And even though I only watched it once, I definitely deserves a rewatch. There's some missing pieces that I'm just trying to remember and all that stuff because it took a while to kind of piece things together.
Oh yeah.
Even though, as me as a person, I'm not into law firms and lawyer talk and all that stuff. If I'm watching Law and Order, I'm all about the police who investigate the crimes, and not the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. Dum dum. Sorry, I had to get that out. I'm more about the crime stuff, like the nitty gritty stuff. I'm not.
Yeah.
A court case stuff I'm really into, which is why my favorite part of Better Call Saul is when he puts his brother Chuck onto trial.
Chicanery.
That is my favorite part of the show.
That episode is commonly considered one of, if not the best episode of the whole show.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. It's
incredible
incredible
him,
episode.
getting good old Huel to plant that fucking battery in his pocket.
Yeah.
I loved it, dude.
Oh,
Making him Chuck loses his composure throughout the whole time. I was also confused about Chuck too. I was like, "Is this guy really have this electromagnetism, like illness, or like it's almost like an allergy?"
Yeah, it's actually like a mental illness, but like it's all in his head.
Yeah.
But like, one thing I'll actually get into about the show in general is
dude, I'm gonna back away. I want you to take the reins.
Right.
Please
Sure thing.
tell me more about why you love this show.
Sure thing.
Please.
But I actually, speaking of that anyway, like one of the things I do love is the fact that the show really takes its time and it doesn't feel the need to hold your hand.
Yeah.
Like, that's something I always appreciate in media, where they can tell a story and they give you just enough at a very slow pace that you start piecing it together yourself.
They're not just blowing everything all out at once. Like, I mean, and this is coming from a show where literally the pilot, they got Tuco.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of may have hooked me. Like, ooh, okay, this is going to connect a lot. But no, in hindsight...
No, it was mainly there
pace.
just for, like, a bit of fan service early on, like... But even then, like,
sure.
You know,
yeah.
It was just because it was the pilot.
Sure.
Yeah. But in general, like, because when it comes to Chuck's mental illness, like, they don't even outright call it a mental illness until, like, a few episodes in. Like, the first few episodes, if you're watching it weekly, you're just, like, sitting there for weeks, like, is he really allergic to electricity? What the hell, right?
Yeah.
But then the show eventually confirms, no, it's in his head.
It's in his head, yeah.
And it's like... I love that about the show. It's like just letting you go along for the ride, and it'll eventually... Anything you don't get, you will get eventually. You just have to trust the writers, which is something I really appreciate.
So for people listening right now, who are just kind of like, I love Breaking Bad, I tried to give Better Call Saul a shot, wasn't too big on it. What is your this misconception that people have? And it is true. It's a misconception that they really just need to keep watching it until it gets as great as Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
What is something you should just tell them? Why it gets as good? Like, sell them right now.
Well, first off, think back to your first time watching Breaking Bad. This has happened to a lot of people, I've noticed. A lot of people watch the first few episodes of Breaking Bad and be like, yeah, it's good. I don't know if I'll keep watching it, though. I'm not really into it. And then somebody else will convince them, no, keep going. It gets better. You'll get hooked. It's the same thing with Better Call Saul. You just because of the pacing of the show, though, you really have to just be patient with it.
Yep.
Because it might start really slow, but that slowness pays off. Like, by the time the show is done, you're going to be so happy you invested all that time into it.
Totally. I agree.
It's a show that I'm excited to go back and revisit.
I want to. And especially now that I just watched Breaking Bad, maybe I'll give it a little bit of time and and watch Better Call Saul, but then rewatch Breaking Bad immediately after.
Yeah.
I'm
excited to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually did just do that since I just finished Better Call Saul. Now that I'm rewatching Breaking Bad, so...
Do you think it works on its own terms, the show?
To an extent, because there actually are people out there who watch Better Call Saul who hadn't seen Breaking Bad.
What?
Yeah.
Even with the whole gene stuff, they're not confused?
Well, that's what I was actually going to get to. Once we eventually get to the last handful of episodes, a lot of people, like, you really need to see Breaking Bad, which is something I also appreciate about the show. It knows that there are people out there who are watching who haven't seen Breaking Bad, but they're like, you need to see this other show. The show isn't going to hold, like, the rest of the show, it's not going to hold your hand. You gotta just do your own homework.
Yeah. And what I like about it is that it's also, because it's following a character who's very eccentric and knows just a lot about everything and strategy and all that, and just trying to, like, swindle people. The show is very funny at a lot of points.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the part that I loved was when he was purposely trying to get fired. When he was using, he was blending he was blending something, I forget.
Using the blender.
The bagpipes.
The bagpipes, that's where he started wearing his eccentric suits, wasn't that suits. Episode?
Yeah, the suits.
It was all to get fired so he could keep his bonus.
And after that, was that when he started to do the cell phone business?
Not yet, no.
That wasn't yet? Okay, that was later on.
Yeah, okay. That was once, after he, lost his law license for a year.
Right.
Because after chicanery, basically, is when that happened.
So, to give people kind of some context, so this is centered around the character that we knew was Saul Goodman, but his real name is Jimmy McGill, and this is the backstory on how he became a crooked lawyer leading all the way into the crime world.
Mm-hmm.
That would later on be in Better Call Saul, and just seeing his sort of fall from grace in a way.
Yeah.
And just his relationship with Kim Wexler, like, is an interesting dynamic that I like. Is like it's so, yeah, I know you like this a lot. Like it's a different dynamic than as opposed to Walt and Skyler.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it you like about Kim and Jimmy so much?
Well, okay, I can also say, like, you could compare their dynamic to Walt and Skyler, but you can also compare it to Walt and Jesse. It's like they have, like, because that's a big thing. Like, you can see so many parallels between characters and relationships in this show versus Breaking Bad, but then, like, others are more of a mix. Like,
I find that Kim eventually warms up to his stuff and wants in on this.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a very tragic figure when you really look back on it.
Kim might be the best character in Better Call Saul, honestly.
She, like, basically gives up her dreams and ambitions and her kind of career-driven personality to a guy that is essentially doing shitty things that eventually she gets a kick out of, and then that leaves her completely shell-shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the most shocking thing that's ever happened on this show, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But I like
when
how
worlds collide.
Yeah. But I find that it's kind of similar to Skyler, where she kind of, like, becomes a companion in a different way.
Yeah, there's a very similar relationship there, but I guess the big thing that separates Kim from Skyler for me is I find Kim far more likable. She never comes...
Oh, she's very likable.
She's just a very likable person.
Absolutely. I will agree
She's
with
someone who, like... How do I explain it? Like, she's very serious, but she's very much, like, loose and a good person.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Like, she does some bad things eventually with Jimmy, obviously, but, like, she has a good heart like Jesse would.
So...
But then, I would actually like to explain my origin with Better Call Saul.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Alright, so when I heard the show was announced, I actually had a similar reaction to you. What a Saul Goodman prequel series? Really? Like, and I just had this mindset of, you know, I was very cynical. I just thought, okay, now they're gonna milk Breaking Bad. It's just gonna be like, hey, let's get everybody here so we can make more money off Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And, you know, my parents were gonna watch the first episode. It was airing live, and they asked, hey, Patrick, you want to join in? And I was like, fine, whatever. May as well see what it's like. And then we just opened with Gene, and it was in black and white, and I was hooked immediately.
So you've watched this from the very beginning?
I watched it from the beginning, week to week, ever since season 1.
That's amazing.
And I could not believe how hooked I got so quickly. It was like a complete 180.
That's amazing. Like,
just that opening made me go, okay, this show is different, and it has an actual respect for itself. Again,
I found it slow, and I shouldn't have been so critical at the beginning. because when you showed it to me like early, like when I started to be like, all right, I'm watching this now. It was like early 2020.
Yeah.
Right before the pandemic, actually. And then I started to watch season 5 as it aired, like throughout like the beginning of the pandemic and all that. But I got through a big hump and just said, okay, I'm gonna focus on this more, and I'm seeing the potential here. Like I like the wittiness behind the show. I like the kind of like ways that they're naturally, organically introducing, like, okay, now here's Mike. Well, Mike has always been from the very beginning, but when Gus in season 2 gets introduced and how that plays into the whole world, you know, and you get like a good.
I think
sense
it was season 3 actually. He gets introduced.
Was it season 3?
I think so.
I thought Mike and Gus met in season 2.
No, I think it's season 3 that he actually gets introduced.
Oh, okay. I thought they got introduced earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because a lot of it focuses on Nacho and.
Oh, Nacho. Can we just talk about Nacho? He's the Jesse of the show.
Oh, Nacho is.
So is it like he was like a good, you know, what do you call it? Like almost like a representative of the Salamanca family, but until Gus kind of like influences him to become almost like a mole?
Not so much influence. He literally gets threatened into it.
Okay.
Yeah, because the whole idea was Hector Salamanca was going to force Nacho's father into like working with them. Nacho's father's a good man, has no involvement in that world, wants no involvement in it.
Yeah.
And
I'm happy his father was good by the end, too.
Same.
And that would have been not a satisfying end to Nacho, even though the way they handled Nacho's outing was so satisfying, the way they handled it.
But
he's going out on his own terms.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Nacho, realizing that his father was going to die if, like, Hector kept pushing this, because he would go to the cops.
Yeah.
That's why Nacho realized the only way to save his father was to kill Hector.
But he didn't plan on. Like,
yeah.
Well, that is another favorite scene of mine, of him swapping the pills.
Oh my god!
It was so tense.
It's one of the. Oh my god!
And what's great is that you don't know if this is gonna get pulled off.
Yeah.
Like Hector could have just like end up being paralyzed a different way, or a different way. This could not go well.
Anytime there's a character we don't see in Breaking Bad, we're worried because we don't know where they'll go.
Yeah. Well, what was Hector's rant speech that he did? His final words. What was he saying? Like,
oh, something like, I remember like Salamanca money. When somebody says, it's not personal, Hector. It is personal.
And he has a stroke.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Oh.
And what it adds on so much more to the dynamic of Gus and Hector is that essentially Gus was responsible for his recovery. Because, like,
but to a point, he made sure he stayed in the chair.
He made sure he stayed, like, he cannot talk or could not move.
Yeah.
What was his line? He's like, well, I guess we should remain optimistic or something like that.
Oh, something like that.
Something
along.
Oh my god.
Yeah, literally he gets the doctor to not give him any more treatment. Just enough to make sure he's alive and he's aware, and that's it.
What are favorite episodes for you?
Oh, there's a lot of good ones as well for this show. Chicanery is an instant classic, as we talked
that's
about.
A courtroom one.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite.
Lantern is another one from season 3 that I love.
Oh, that's when Chuck kicks the lantern.
Yeah. It also has like one whole. It's the only episode I ever felt bad for Chuck.
Oh yeah.
Because like seeing like, even though like he is such a terrible brother, like seeing his mental breakdown as he's like tearing his house apart, like that is hard to watch.
The bookshelves and all that.
Yeah. Like just watching that, I'm like, I don't like you, but I don't want to watch you go through this. Yeah. And I will say about Chuck as well, actually, he feels like he's written in a way where the show intends for you not to like him, as opposed to how Skylar was.
But
written.
in some ways, Chuck is right just by
That's the other thing.
Yeah,
he's really, in a way, he really is also the Skylar of the show to an extent.
Yeah, to a certain extent.
Like, you don't like him, but he's right.
Yeah, like Jimmy, essentially, like, he's not a real lawyer. Like, you know, it's like he didn't like. I forget the details basically.
Yeah,
but
he got his law license through an online class.
Oh my god.
Through some like D-grade school,
Oh.
the University of Samoa or something.
But in the end, the winner takes it all.
Yeah.
Winner.
Oh, Winner's a classic as well.
Well, just do you think, oh, like, is Jimmy feeling bad about, Chuck's demise and just what he represented? No, that was just a ploy just to get into this law firm. Oh yeah, don't refer to me as Jimmy. It's all good, man.
Yeah. That's another thing I love about the pacing of this show is you'd think, like, based on the slow pace, it's like, okay, like, maybe, like, because after the end of the first episode of season 4, you think he's going to, how is he going to process Chuck's death?
Yep.
And he just doesn't.
He doesn't. He kind of shrugs it off for a while, I noticed.
And then see the finale, you're thinking, okay, he's finally processing and starting to grieve. And then, nope. It isn't until the series finale that it finally happens.
I think the funny stuff...
Which would lead me into one of the other best episodes, Saul Gone.
Saul Gone.
Which is a wonderful title.
Yeah. I was going to say that when Jimmy, like, changed the numbers to something, it was like the address.
Yes. Yeah.
And it made Chuck to go back to this printing place a few times. I remember liking all that stuff. I think that's the thing I liked really about Jimmy and the plots of, like, just, like, him trying to, like, swindle his way and, like, try to even the guy with the broken arm that will come later on, that was so fun.
I will say as well with this show even more than Breaking Bad really benefits from a second viewing, because you see how everything, because once you know where everything goes and you go back earlier, you see how it's all set up from the beginning. Like the whole Sandpiper case is back in season 1. In season 2,
is that with the Kennemans?
No, the Kittlemans aren't involved with that. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the Kittlemans are like the first 3 episodes, very similar to how I'm pretty sure it was 3 episodes or so, something like that. Similar to how, like, the first few episodes of Breaking Bad were the Crazy 8 saga, you could call it.
Well, Crazy 8, speaking of him, you get to see how he went from almost like an innocent type to being corrupted by the Saul.
Yeah, and he's just a very minor character, but, like, it
answered.
Yeah, like, he's, like, almost even a cameo, but, like, totally, he's still, like, still gets a little bit of, like, backstory through it.
What was the guy's name? And I cannot believe he popped up in Better Call Saul as a character. The one that Kim and Jimmy...
Ken?
Yeah. They posed as siblings.
Yes.
He's like the douchey guy that Walter
he's in one episode of both shows.
Yeah.
And he gets fucked over both times.
I love it. It's like a staple.
Yes.
Ken, that's his name? Okay. Yeah.
We actually, when we watched that episode... of Breaking Bad, and he got introduced for this episode, I literally looked over at Caroline and said, he's in one episode of both shows, and in both shows he gets fucked over.
I love it. I even like the way you said it when we were getting introduced to when Hank and Gomez pops up, where you're like, well, we've now entered into this time where the DEA does get involved in the show, so it makes sense for them to pop up. Even though they don't, their hairs, I don't know.
They've aged. That's a big thing in the whole show, to be honest.
That's one stigma to Better Call Saul that I don't know if is gonna, like, ironically age well. Is the fact that, like, everybody looks so much older. Like, Mike is
Mike, yeah.
Mike's, okay, what's the deal with Mike's granddaughter thing? You said it's intentional, right?
Okay, well, here's the funny thing about that.
Okay.
When, Breaking Bad, she's barely in it, like, only in, like, the 5th season, I believe.
Yeah.
So when they did the first season of Better Call Saul, and they came up with Mike's backstory, and they cast an actress to play the granddaughter, the writers, Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, who is, like, the co-showrunner, and he's actually the main showrunner of Better Call Saul.
You're right, and he's the one who wrote the solo writer of the Better Call Saul episode in season 2 of Breaking Bad.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's the one who invented this character.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been around.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like, him, we have to... Shout out to him as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when he was when they were making this first season of Better Call Saul, they cast her and everything, and it wasn't until after they realized, wait,
they fucked up?
They fucked up.
Oh, come on.
And after they fucked up, they said, well, it's too late now. We may as well own that we fucked up, and that it just became a running joke in the fandom because like they acknowledge it. Like, yeah, so that's why they're always recasting the actress that plays Mike's granddaughter is because they're just going with the joke now.
Not about recasting, but it's the fact that like, does she not age?
Well, that's the joke as well because they recast her because the actress will get too old now, so they have to recast her each season.
I can forgive the recasting. It's the age that.
Yeah, but that's like, why. But that's what I mean when they were getting so into the joke at that point. Like, we may as well keep her the same age, so we'll keep changing actresses to keep her the same age.
But regardless, they still focused on like why he was never around the mother in Breaking Out, which made me go, why isn't there no connection? And then you find out, it's because of the son.
That's might be the best episode of season 1.
Her husband.
5-0, I believe it's called.
I broke my boy.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It's so good. Let's talk about Lalo. And I was excited when you told me about this. I'm like, wait, there's another Salamanca?
Yeah.
And you told me it's like this suave guy, and the second he came on screen, that stash, that like... You're such a charming guy.
Yeah.
But it's probably he's probably way more psychopathic than fucking Tuco.
Yeah.
Like he's insane.
Yeah.
This guy is like a fucking psychopath. I love Lalo. He's probably my favorite Salamanca.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Like they really outdid themselves with that. And I also love how he's literally just a throwaway line in Breaking Bad.
Dude, and that's I'm a sucker for things where it's like, wow, they took little things like that but build on it.
That's a good chunk of the show is just they had to take his throwaway lines and make a story out of it that made sense.
Saul's on his knees getting threatened by Jesse and Walt going, "Who sent you? Was it Lalo?"
It wasn't me, it was Ignacio. He's the one.
Ignacio was Nacho.
Yeah.
That's his first name.
That's his real name. Nacho's his street name.
When did Jimmy and Nacho share a scene together? That would be a dumb question to ask.
Episode 2.
Is that it?
No, they were in a few scenes together, but that's when they first got introduced. Because Nacho's first episode was episode 2.
I gotta fucking rewatch.
Yeah, he worked for Tuco at the time.
Let's talk about more recent shit because we actually haven't talked about like the last quarter of this season.
Oh yes,
yet. And I'm excited to see what. So like literally the last time you and I saw each other, we were left off on like the craziest fucking cliffhanger where. So Howard Hamlin, who's like the co-founder of like the Hamlin and McGill.
Yeah, Hamlin McGill.
Hamlin McGill, and the Mesa Verde was the one that Kim was trying to go for.
Yeah, right? Mesa Verde was a bank that Kim. She basically. Season 2 actually is when they got introduced.
I gotta rewatch this.
Rewatching it before season 5 like made so much more sense after. But she basically got them their case because she was like doing a lot of digging around to find a case because she was essentially being punished by Howard because Jimmy got fired at the other job because he.
So they wanted to get retribution on this guy in the very end.
Well, no. Well, basically,
on Howard.
Oh, on Howard.
On
yeah.
Howard.
Oh, yeah.
On Howard,
Yeah, like, you can actually think of that as the moment that she truly started to hate Howard was back in season 2, where she finally got him this case to try and, like, get out of doc review and be a real lawyer again. Yeah. And then he's just like, nah.
But I almost look at it as Howard represents a little bit of Chuck still alive. Like the remnants of like how he's sort of like a pillar in the way of Jimmy's progression.
After Chuck dies, Howard becomes a much more likable person.
Oh, yeah.
Like you really feel bad for the guy.
We were questioning like how are they going to utilize him? Or is he but then
But now I feel like a fool for questioning it because he's so well utilized at the end.
They pull off the biggest fucking con to Howard with like the guy with the broken arm. Like they even went out of their way to redo it again.
Yeah.
With the film crew. I love the film crew.
The film crew are some of my favorite supporting characters.
That makeup artist is a sweetheart and I love her. She's so great. I forget her name, but
I never remember their names, but the 3 of them are fantastic.
Are they the ones that shot these crummy commercials?
Oh, for sure.
Hey, Pat, I want you to know, you have rights. It says in the Constitution you have rights. I love those shitty commercials.
Yes.
They're so great. But they con Howard. Like, they basically get him, they frame him to be a cocaine user.
Cocaine addict,
yeah.
And it's all, like, like, at first it seems like, it's mainly to ruin his reputation, but
totally.
a good side effect of it is it ends the Sandpiper case, which was brought in season 1 by Jimmy. He brought them to HHM,
Yep.
and they took it from him, and then, like...
And then when Howard confronts them, like, look, I don't know how you did it, but, like, you won at this. And then Jimmy was just like, look, Howard, you're going to bounce back from this. And then
Before we get further to that,
sure.
I actually wanted to say what Howard says to them, actually. It's Howard realizes that they didn't do it for any monetary gain. It wasn't for money. They did it for fun.
Oh, yeah.
And the moment he realizes that is the moment you start to realize, like, when you think about it, like, these two are virtually soulless at this point. Like, they ruined his career just for fun.
Yeah.
Like, that's, like, even though you have fun watching it unfold and figuring it out as it goes along, like, you start to realize how fucked up it is.
He kicked his ass in a boxing match, so I guess some things are even in some way. But Lalo just comes in out of nowhere.
Yes.
And just kills Howard. Puts a gun to his head and fucking kills him.
For no real reason?
No real reason at all.
Just wrong place, wrong time.
Wrong place, wrong time. And then that was the cliffhanger point that we last left off on. But before we move on, actually, I just remembered the most intense fucking episode of the show. Bagman.
Oh, Bagman. Season 5,
Season 5. That was Saul.
Directed by Vince Gilligan.
Vince Gilligan, yeah. That was his introduction to, like, what this world is.
Yeah, that was his real introduction to it. Like, he had his moments before, but that was, like, the big one.
It took real skill and precision of stunt work to make that car flip and not hit him.
Oh my god,
It was so intense.
Yeah.
It was so fucking intense.
Oh.
And then when we think, okay, you and I, we tried to give up, like, where the fuck is the show going? We have no idea. Like, the remaining episodes, we're still surprised on, like, like, this isn't predictable. This is still, how is this still managing to surprise us?
One of the big things, like...
And then Lalo dies immediately in the follow-up episode.
Yeah.
And they bury both Lalo and Howard's bodies
together under the lab.
And I remember you saying, I can't look at that lab the same again.
Yeah.
And no, it was so fucking crazy, dude. And I know it wasn't the same, but do you remember when Jesse and Walt, after burned down the whole lab, but they left 2 of Gus's henchmen in the lab after they killed them, and then when Hank and Gomez is looking at the remnants of the whole burnt up thing, they said 2 bodies, and I'm thinking, I gasped and went, oh wait, no. Never mind. I'm overthinking. They're buried way below cement.
Yeah. They'll never find them.
They'll never find them, but still.
Yeah.
There's so
much...
much...
I think even Kim says in the Gene timeline, she tells Howard's wife, like, you're never gonna find his body.
Oh, that Russian guy, the one that, like, helped get all the equipment for the lab that Mike was assigned to.
Oh, the Germans.
Oh, was he German?
They were all Germans.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Okay, sorry, he was German.
Yeah, Werner.
Werner, yeah. What happens to him was tragic.
Yeah, that's actually the big one that I was talking about earlier. That was Mike's first time having to kill an innocent.
That's the one you're talking about. Okay.
And I see a major, like, a major parallel between that and
Jesse and Gail.
Yeah.
Is that what
that was another one too, actually.
What
was
as well. What you're gonna say?
I was actually gonna say, like, I always compare like Werner in that spot to Walter. Werner eventually accepts his fate, realizing, like, he cares more that his wife gets out alive when Mike tells him that. Yeah. So he's like, okay, like, if there's no other, like, he says, is there no other way?
Yeah.
And when Mike says, doesn't respond, like, he knows it, so he just walks out to look at the stars and just lets Mike shoot him in the back.
Yeah.
But in Walter White's case, when he's brought into a very similar situation, he starts begging and, like, coming up with anything to get out of it, and literally weasels his way out. Like, there's no honor, there's no dignity.
Honor. Nope.
Werner still had dignity in his death.
But to carry on about, like, just, like, Lalo and everything that happened to Howard, like, that Kim was like, I have to be gone. I can't have anything to do with this. So that explains why she's been out of the picture throughout his whole life that we've known Jimmy. And then everything kind of ties in kind of organically and loosely into Breaking Bad, really.
That time skip.
The time skip was kind of crazy.
Yeah, at first it caught me so off guard, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, this makes sense. And that was the moment I realized Because I remember in the mid-season finale, after that, I was saying to you, I don't know how they're going to fit in all this stuff they need to do in, what was it, 6 more episodes. Yeah. And then, like you were saying, first episode, Lalo's killed off. And then the episode after that is literally just tying up the Better Call Saul timeline.
Yeah,
it's
we got to see, like, yeah, and it's just, we talked about it before, but it's just so distracting
it did in 2 episodes what I thought would take those 6 episodes to pull off.
Like, Bob Odenkirk looks more handsome now in the show than he did when he started off in Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And also just, Aaron Paul's age. He doesn't look like a 25.
It was, I will say, that cameo was very distracting to me.
Distracting, even though it's nice to see them again, and they're there because it's appropriate for them to be there.
I will say, though, during that scene, actually, that was the moment where I started questioning which show I like better, because, like, I was trying to lean more and more towards Better Call Saul.
Yep.
And then that scene was the one where I'm like, I saw them together and saw Walt and Jesse's, dynamic again. And I was like, oh God, I missed this dynamic.
Yeah.
And I realized, I don't know which show I like better. Like, that was just a weird, like, clicking moment where...
Now, the scene that Jimmy and Walt were sharing, like, in the bunker thing, was that right after...
that was in the...
Ozymandias kind of... era after they fled. They were kind of waiting to...
Yeah, it would have been in between Ozymandias and...
the second last episode.
The second last episode, because they were there for a few days.
Yeah,
and
that's right. And then the last thing that we see in present time is, like, literally Jimmy or Saul walking up to the school and just being like, all right, I'm going to take a chance on this guy, which was the biggest mistake he could ever make.
Yeah.
But you know what? Things kind of tie... It comes full circle of who ruins whose lives. Because guess who Walt was introduced from Saul? Uncle Jack and that whole gang.
Yeah.
And they're essentially the reason why.
He met most of the major players through Saul. Like,
so
Saul,
who ruins whose lives?
Because Saul also got him introduced to Gus as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And and Mike getting introduced was through Saul as well.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
It all goes back to Saul in that final episode when he says, Walter White couldn't have done it without me. The more you think on it, the more you realize he's right.
And it kind of, when you were saying that there's people that don't know what Breaking Bad is, I'm wondering if they don't even know who this Walter White is. They're probably like, who is he? I want to know who this is. And they watch Breaking Bad, and then they don't even know the fate of Gus and Mike at that point.
That's true. Like, if you just watch Better Call Saul and then go straight into Breaking Bad, it's like...
I want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that the next time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to experiment. That's what's so great about it. It's a different experience.
You know what could be a really cool way of watching it, I find? Is watch up until... I can't remember the name of the episode in Better Call Saul, but watch up until the time skip and then do Breaking Bad.
Oh,
and then the last 3 or 4 episodes.
And so you can... I don't know.
Because then those 4 episodes serve as an epilogue to that.
Well, we'll get to the epilogue soon.
Yeah.
For one particular character. But then you see throughout Better Call Saul little teases of the aftermath. As Jimmy said, I'm going to be managing a fucking Cinnabon in the middle of nowhere at a mall. So we see little things of Gene. He's on edge throughout the whole time. He's trying some ways to kind of get that urge of like lawyer being back. That's why he saw like cops busting this one guy. He's like, get a lawyer.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. And then he like befriends with like the security guard giving him. I get so hungry for Cinnabon after that.
That episode made me want Cinnabon so badly.
So good. But when he finds out that some cab driver recognizes him from Albuquerque, because he used to live in Albuquerque, he's like, I know who you are. You're the guy from the commercials. Say the line. Say the line. So eventually, when he starts to get to know him, it's like you're introduced to his mother, played by Carol Burnett, which was a nice little surprise. I didn't even know she came out of retirement. You said that.
Yeah, she came out of retirement just for this role.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're pulling off, heists in the mall at night, which that was good tense
Oh,
stuff.
Nippy.
Nippy,
Oh, actually,
the dog. There was no Nippy.
I actually wanted to talk to you about this as well,
Yeah.
actually. Nippy is commonly considered by the fans as Better Call Saul's version of The Fly.
The worst one?
No, well, the one that divides people, the
Oh.
quote-unquote filler episode.
Really?
Yeah, it catches me off guard, like, because it's an episode you either love to death or you are just not into.
Yeah, that defines Ryan Johnson as a person, because he did both Fly and Ozymandias.
Yeah.
Like, you either love this guy or you hate him.
Yeah.
Like Ryan Johnson. I didn't know Nippy was... Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just new to that.
Yeah, I actually only found out, like, in the past few weeks, actually, that people were divided on that one.
But when the mother discovers, like, stumbles on a commercial, and I love the touch.
The color in the lens.
The color in his reflection.
Yeah.
And I'm just on the edge of my seat when she's calling, there's a man in my house, his name's Saul Goodman. And, like, I'm like, oh my god, okay, we're in the last episode. Okay, how is he going to pull this off? Immediately arrested.
Yeah.
Arrested immediately.
Yeah.
Arrested immediately.
Oh, can we actually backtrack to that moment as well
sure.
between him and Carol Burnett
Sure,
as
sure,
well? Like, I love when he pulls out the phone cord like he's going to do something.
Yep.
But, like, we know Jimmy, we know Saul. He doesn't have it in him. But he's also like, I gotta keep her quiet.
Yep.
But then the moment, like, she says, I trusted you, it triggers, like, him to back off, because if you think back to it, he's always had a soft spot for the elderly. If you go back to Better Call Saul, in the early seasons, he always worked with the elderly people.
That's right.
There was
the bingo.
Yeah, there was a woman in particular that he was pulling a con on to try and get Sandpiper shut down early.
Right.
Back in, like, season 3, I think.
Or what about the guy
or season 4? But there was also the other guy.
The guy that was not giving up his property. Kim was trying.
Oh yeah,
to
Kim.
him.
Kim and Jimmy were helping him as well.
Yeah,
but
I remember that one.
Yeah, there was a woman who, though.
It's a picture of a guy fucking a horse.
One of my favorite reactions.
Yeah.
But this, I can't remember the female character's name. She is in season 6 as well. She's the one that Howard wheels into the meeting.
Oh,
the elderly
okay.
woman. Yeah.
Okay.
She's been there since season 1. Like, Jimmy worked with her for a while.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and, like, they had a falling out as well because, like, he basically fucked himself over and his reputation with the elderly by, like, intentionally letting slip that he was conning them to try and get Sandpiper done early.
Yep.
But, he felt bad when he realized he ruined her life with her friendship with her friends. So he's like, no, I'm going to fix this, but doing that's going to cost me my rep.
And dude, what I love is that Jimmy took himself to trial and at least tried to give it one last shot.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I also love, dude, is that
we've got a lot for that episode.
We only got like a snippet of Marie at the end of the end of Breaking Bad.
Actually
where it kind of felt like her and Skylar kind of had a little bit of they're making amends somewhat when they were calling on the phone at the end of the last episode, but we didn't get much of her.
Yep.
The fact that her and Steve Gomez's wife get some justice
was
satisfying.
Like, it was something I never expected, but I realized we needed this.
We definitely needed that.
Yeah,
for sure. They needed some.
Yeah, it's the right. Peter Gould and Vince Gilligan realized these two characters still need some real closure.
Absolutely. Wow, with the exception of Skylar and Walter Jr., everybody was.
Yeah, Skylar and Walter Jr. didn't need anything.
They didn't need to be.
Their stories were wrapped up.
That was wrapped up.
Yeah,
they don't even need to appear.
Yeah, Marie, like I said, I didn't think at the time. I didn't think about it, but it's true. Her story wasn't really wrapped.
I want to ask you something, and we'll continue for a second. But do you know if anyone's ever spotted just a family sedan driving by in the background anytime in Better Call Saul?
I haven't heard anything about that.
That would be kind of cool.
There could be something, but I haven't seen anything. Maybe we'll have to keep an eye out during a rewatch
That'd be cool. But
that's actually, speaking of fan service, the show handles fan service better than anything.
Lucasfilm, take notes. This is how you do prequels, and to give a purpose of having a character you might recognize having a place.
Yeah.
You know, not just highlighting them and just being like us.
Yeah.
We're showing you things that you like.
Yeah, the only time I can really think of that was like when Tuco got brought in at the end of episode 1, but even then it got utilized well in the next. It was a tease for the next episode and was well utilized.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, you know, and he also served as an introduction to Nacho, so
Yeah.
it worked out. It wasn't just there for, hey, remember me?
Exactly.
Like,
how'd you feel about Kim, where she ended up going?
oh my god, like,
some office job, just, you know, even though it seems nice and friendly staff and all that, but like her on the bus,
oh my god,
when everything just kind of hits her, and
yeah,
on her,
like she ran away.
She ran away. Yeah.
Like she couldn't handle like her responsibility for what happened to Howard, and I gotta say the scene where before then, where like in the Better Call Saul timeline, where she gives up her case and she says she gave up her law license. It had caught me so off guard, and
I was like, no.
No.
Yeah, it's impossible.
No, I'm like,
Yeah.
She literally gave up on all her hopes and dreams, everything she cared about. That's how much Howard's death fucked her up.
But they left a glimmer of hope for her
Yes.
at the end.
Yes,
too.
she got some other another job where she's helping, you know, the people in need again.
Yeah.
Which is what she wanted to do as a lawyer, all those pro bono cases.
And dude, like, I didn't know that they were doing a thing like bookending kind of shot, but like already the shot of him in prison and he's bumming the smoke and they're just kind of standing there is a great striking
To their
black
first
and white image.
scene.
But I didn't know until I saw a TikTok where someone, that's the first
That's
episode.
the first scene, first scene you see of them together,
I
them
didn't
sharing
know
the
that.
cigarette. Yeah.
Oh
That's what
my
I clued
God.
into immediately, and I was like, oh my god, this is perfect.
I'm jealous of your experience, man, because you're way more into this than me, and I am to a certain. I'm into it to a certain extent. I really like Breaking or Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
I really like it. I think the cinematography is way better.
Oh yeah, naturally.
The editing, everything's more sophisticated and way. There's
a
a sense of smartness to the show that's different than Breaking Bad.
Yeah, they're
in terms of the writing.
the way I describe Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad is they're very similar yet complete opposites at the same time.
Apples and oranges situation?
It's really an apples and oranges, an alien or aliens.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're more. They coincide more than Alien and Aliens.
Yeah, but like a difference in like you can tell like one person will like one over the other for
like
sure.
Different flavors of ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a chocolate or are you a vanilla?
Yeah. And dude, like, okay, and major spoilers for everybody listening right now.
I think we're long past
Well,
that.
yeah, but no, this is like the final decision of like if you're like the final thing for all three of these things we're talking about. But like you said that in the Breaking Bad universe, there are only 3 outcomes for characters: you either die, you get arrested, or you get away. So we got Walter White dying, we got Jimmy McGill getting arrested, and Jesse Pinkman gets away.
Yeah.
And you were right. Before this ending, you were absolutely right.
I
was convinced. I was like, that makes fucking sense. It's a trinity of outcomes, and that has to happen.
Yeah, and it's the only
different impacts.
It's the only ending that really fits Saul.
Absolutely.
Like he doesn't deserve to die, but he shouldn't get away. Like the whole Gene timeline also shows he needs to get arrested.
Yeah, and Walter White doesn't deserve to get away.
Mm-hmm.
Prison is a bit like, okay, whatever.
It would be too underwhelming.
You gotta die.
Plus, he even says to Hank in season 5, like, say you're right. Say you go through the process, you arrest me. What then? I'll be dead before I'm in prison.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I literally just finished that episode last night.
Oh.
I'm still trying to wrap up the show listening.
Yeah.
We got on the conversation beforehand, but it's okay. Is there any final thoughts you have on the show? Or?
Just want to talk a bit more about that final episode
sure.
One of my favorite things about
Saul gone.
Saul gone. One of my favorite things is how he's literally able to talk down his sentence.
Yep.
He's talking to them, gives this whole speech about how he was coerced and afraid of Walter White, and
then when he goes to trial, he says something completely different.
Yeah, he actively gives himself up, and it's because when he hears that Kim did the same thing. She just went in and confessed everything. It resonates with Jimmy. It's the first time in forever, like, it's something that hit him.
Yep.
Just why he lets it slip, like, oh, I've got something that involves Kim that you'll want to hear, because he knows the word will get to Kim, so she'll end up at the trial.
Yeah.
And that way she can just see his final act as Saul Goodman is essentially to kill Saul Goodman and be Jimmy McGill again.
It's like a full circle thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He literally says, I want to be known as Saul at the start of the trial. And then after he confesses everything, he says, my name is McGill.
Oh my god.
And of course, confessing everything, he doesn't get those 7 years he negotiated in a high-end prison. He goes to a piece of crap, low-end prison for the rest of his life, pretty much. But he finally owned up to everything. He finally did the right thing.
Yeah.
And it's just such an impactful moment.
And when, like, him and Kim kind of, like, have that last stare at each other at the end in the prison courtyard, it's like... Yeah, like they'll always kind of like have a thing for each other, even though they both can't really be together.
As she said, we're toxic.
We're toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a strong line. Yeah. Oh my god, and I just remembered, I didn't say my my epic 12 lines of
Oh, right.
Alright, so this is literally like the course of action of Walter White. Are you ready? Starting from the very beginning to the very end. And I'm going to try and do my best impression of all these. Okay?
Oh boy.
I am awake. This is not meth. Stay out of my territory. Run. I am the one who knocks. I won. We're done when I say we're done. I'm in the empire business. Say my name. Tread lightly. I've still got things left to do. I did it for me.
Oh.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's his whole arc.
Yeah.
Those 12 lines, those are the beats. I found that those were literally the beats, and I had to write them down.
Wow. Holy shit.
Oh, did you agree?
Yeah.
I just discovered that, really. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it makes sense. Yeah.
But, any final thoughts you have about these two shows before we move on to, like, the little epilogue movie? I know you got more to talk about, probably.
I've got it's like how you have so much to talk about with Breaking Bad in particular. I've got so much with Better Call Saul.
You're the biggest fan of Better Call Saul that I know. And I'm going to rewatch this again, for sure.
Yeah,
we can talk all day about it. And that's what I love about this.
It's a show that really does benefit from like watching from beginning to end twice.
Yeah.
And I always love things, movies, shows, whatever, where like they get better the more you revisit them.
Yeah.
Like, because I'd rather have that to something that's like, oh, this is great the first time, and then every time you go back to it, it's not.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, like Breaking Bad is like great from like, it's just as good every time you watch it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which I love about it. But Better Call Saul's like a fine wine. It ages really well.
Oh my god. Well, the cinematography. And here's another thing both these shows share really well. And it makes me almost like, not hate everything else. But like, I like the way that this show utilizes ambience or little bits of score.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's actually like, there's dryness of like, you think, there should be music, I guess, to emphasize. I
love that.
There should be music to emphasize it,
Yeah.
but there isn't. Mm-hmm. But it's just all performance and all the situation that you feel like you're there. Like, do you remember when you and I were talking with Hunter about like Denis Villeneuve movies where you felt like there's like realistic like yelling? You know, where it doesn't feel like movie yelling. It feels like real yelling.
Yeah.
Where someone raises their voice.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these shows are littered with moments like that, where there's just great sound mixing. Where I feel like the audio, them yelling is just, it's right in front of me.
Yeah.
It's so strange. And just the uses of like the score, where it's just like sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Like very well done.
Actually, like I was noticing a lot of that when I was watching the episode of Breaking Bad, Cancer Man. Season 1.
Season 1. Okay.
Yeah, just recently I was rewatching that one with Carolina.
Yeah.
and like it's the intervention scene. I have the talking pillow.
Oh, I have the talking pillow. Yeah.
There's no music at all in that whole scene, and like it works so well. Like, cause that's something I love about both of these shows is they know when music is necessary and when it isn't.
Right.
They'll see sometimes we're like, no, the cinematography, the editing, and just the acting are selling it. We don't need anything else. It'll be overkill.
That's what I meant more. Like, where you think there should be music, but there isn't.
Yeah.
Because an example of that would be right after Hank is kind of gaining his confidence back when he's home recovering and all that.
Mm-hmm.
When he gets all that evidence about the whole Gale murder, when he said, this guy's like a weirdo vegan guy that eats everything, plant-based and like, fair trade and all that. What's he doing at a chicken joint?
Yeah.
And he shows like the number written down for the air conditioner.
Yeah.
And that's like the last moment of that episode. And I'm thinking that's like a
any other show would have done that.
Yeah, like that's like a moment of like a cue or something.
Yeah.
But then there's moments where there is music, but it's just ambience.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's sometimes dread, tension, and But like I'm like that's utilized well.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be like if you detracted. I'm kind of like maybe it does need music, but there's never a point in the show where I'm like that needed music.
Yeah. Like the points that have music are points where they probably were in the editing room like this part needs something. We need a little more oomph here.
Yeah.
But then points where it isn't necessary, they're like, no, this works well without it. Not necessary.
We're good. Yeah.
And I love that.
Oh,
I always feel that's how music should be utilized.
I like that. Remember the split screen montage in Better Call Saul?
Stupid.
Something Stupid. Is that the episode?
Yeah.
I love that one of Saul and Kim just
oh my God, going like doing their own thing, like, and you're seeing their lives go in two very different directions.
Love it.
Oh,
that's like the crystal blue persuasion of the show.
It really is.
That.
Like I think from the moment that episode aired, everyone was saying the exact same thing.
From writing to performances to cinematography to editing to just overall presentation and
I'll also say this, I personally like the character. I just like the characters more in Better Call Saul.
You're a bigger fan.
I think Walter White is a very interesting character.
Yeah.
But and Jesse is probably my favorite character in the whole franchise still. But I feel like everybody in Better Call Saul tends to either be more likable, and if they're not likable, it's intended. Where Breaking Bad, like I said, it's not really a criticism, it's the fact you don't really like Skyler or Marie or anybody like that. A lot of the side characters and even main characters like Walt aren't likable people.
Dude, you're selling me more on this to rewatch it. And I was so happy that I gave it a second shot. The show, and I really liked it. I really liked it, but I want to love it like you.
Yeah.
Actually. It's really strange.
Yeah, when you revisit it knowing where it goes, and especially just focusing on the characters, you see they're all good, likable characters. Even the ones doing bad things you tend to like, aside from Chuck, but he's intended for you not to like.
Exactly. And it's all available on Netflix.
Yeah.
You can watch both these shows on Netflix now.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of Netflix, that takes us to the final little segment. This won't take long. It's going to be a quick little thing, but there's an epilogue to Breaking Bad that's centered around Jesse Pinkman. It's a Netflix movie that came out in 2019 called El Camino.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just all about after Jesse fled, the ranch that he was being held captive at Uncle Jack and Todd. It's just him trying to get away, clear up his own, kind of things that he left behind. But what'd you think?
I like it.
Do you think they kind of left out Todd? Or not Todd, sorry. Do you think they left out Brock a bit? That's one thing I was kind of when I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, nothing with Brock.
I forget if they mentioned Brock. It's been a while.
I don't know if they did or
Yeah,
not.
he wouldn't have appeared in it, naturally, because the actor would have grown older, so...
Yeah.
But, I feel like they might have mentioned something about, him living with his grandmother or something like that.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it might have been in Breaking Bad they mentioned it. I don't remember, but...
One thing I noticed right off the bat, and I just remember, a shot of, Badger and Skinny Pete just sitting there right before Jesse comes in and cleans himself up is like right away. I'm like, movie.
Yeah.
Like just aesthetically,
It starts.
It did not feel like. And I'm not saying that as a criticism, because there's two different looks from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but for this one just felt a bit like...
I agree. Like, the moment I started El Camino, as someone who had just watched it just after Better Call Saul Season 4,
yep.
like, it looked even better than Better Call Saul. Like, you could see, oh, this actually has a movie budget. This looks movie.
It looks like a movie.
Yeah.
It is a movie. But, I'm trying to remember, like, I remember, like, there was, like, a cool-looking montage of him going around. It was, like, a bird-eye view. It almost looked like a floor plan-looking shot.
Oh, I forgot about that. He's, like, searching an apartment.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember.
He's on the run the whole time. Like,
yeah.
I felt like with Jesse, it was more satisfying to really see, like, it's a movie we didn't ask for.
Yeah, it's something we didn't need, but it was nice to see.
We didn't ask for it. We got the point that he got away. I think seeing more closure with him on trying to get away, because Jesse deserves, like you said, doesn't deserve to die, doesn't deserve to get arrested. He deserves a clean start. He's always deserved that. Get fucking Walter White out of his life.
Big thing about the movie is to show just how much trauma the boy's gone through.
Jesus Christ.
Like, all the flashbacks and, like, cameos are all about how this kid just got fucked over. How'd
you feel about the Mike, Todd, Jane, Walter, they all...
A lot of the cameos, like, you know, like, they actually did feel, like, well-suited to show just how much he's gone through and how much he's grown over the course. That was how I saw it when...
It's a shame about Jane, though, because, like, where they said they wanted to go, you know, afterwards.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, like, when you watch it, especially, like, that's why it's called El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. You need to see Breaking Bad for it.
You need to see this. Yeah. I would love if anyone has not seen Breaking Bad.
It's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
You're not going to have any idea what's happening.
It's like if you read the book Breaking Bad, and like right at the end, you know how they always have like a novel that says epilogue.
Yeah,
like that's what El Camino was.
That
like.
really is.
It really did feel like an epilogue in its purest form.
Mm-hmm.
I think just more you wanted to. I'm repeating myself again, but it's like you wanted to really witness the closure of him getting away.
Yeah,
and have him have more of a bittersweet ending as opposed to Walter and Saul.
Yeah, like everybody actually does get a bittersweet ending. All three of them, they all fit each of them. Walter dying, but he dies on his own terms.
Felina?
Yeah.
Which is apparently a made-up anagram on the periodic table, which means blood, tears, and meth.
Yeah, like it's iron, sodium, and...
methylamine, probably.
I can't remember what the other one is, but like those do. Yeah. Blood, tears, and meth. They all have those three things.
That's the final thing when he touches the tank.
And it looks like the word finale, so it's like actually such one of the it's probably that and Saul Gone are the most brilliant finales, even down to their titles.
Love it. It's so good.
Can I talk
remember more about El Camino though?
I can talk about the most distracting thing, which is similar to what you were talking about with Better Call Saul.
I know what you're gonna say. Say it.
Todd gained some weight.
Yes. Yeah, Jesse Plemons. Yeah, great actor, but like I don't know what it's distracting.
It is very distracting, unfortunately.
Not as distracting as Mike's age, though.
For me, it's the opposite. I'm more distracted by Fat Todd.
I love it.
Like, as you know, I look at because I'll look at Mike's age and I'll be like, okay, I get it, you know. But, you know, especially because there was such a big gap between Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul's beginning, like, I was able to kind of have enough distance there.
Sure.
Or when I watch El Camino and I'm like, this takes place right in between these bits with Todd, and it's like he gained a lot of weight and then he lost it again off screen. It's very distracting.
It's a movie that like I don't feel a desire to like. It's a need.
It's
almost like this is nice.
Yeah.
Nice little thing, you know. It's like.
Yeah, like, it's one of those things where, like, I'll always recommend both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul as companion pieces.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell people, if you want a little epilogue for Jesse, watch El Camino. if you don't feel like you need it, you don't need to watch it.
He did something clever at the end with the gun.
Yeah, I think he had it like under his hoodie or something. Yeah.
Which I kind of felt
like he had a second one, I believe, like when he was going to do like a standoff.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, this is something I guess like Walt could have done, but it's like level 1 almost.
Yeah.
Like, I got like this sort of sense
he's
like
gotten influenced from them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got that vibe too. And who were the people that he was trying to...
They were just random like guys, as I recall, for that movie, like just more thugs? Criminals and thugs, yeah.
Oh, in the cartel or something like that? Or...
Not even cartel. I didn't get the cartel vibe from them. I think they were just guys who knew who he was and wanted money.
The craziest thing about that, a fun fact, is Robert Forster, who played the vacuum guy, passed away the same day that movie was released.
Yeah, and he's in the movie too.
And he's in the movie.
Yeah.
Well. What's the question that you always like? Can I get a? You call him and you say, "Can I get a?"
I forget the exact phrasing of it.
Robert Forster, rest in peace. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the strangest timing.
Yeah.
It made watching it that night even stranger, just knowing he was just gone now.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, because I heard it right before I started watching it.
Here's one final question I'll say. Do you think this is the end of this universe? Do you not see anything else?
I think this is it for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like at least for Vince Gilligan. Like
I heard him and
Rhea Seehorn. Yeah,
they're doing a show.
Yeah, they're doing another show now.
Right.
It sounds like it's completely separate, which is good.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's funny. He always did say, like during Better Call Saul's making, like the last half of the show, he would say that he wasn't interested in making another show, but if he would want to make one about Kim.
During what time?
That's all he said was, like, if he was going to do anything, he would want to do something about Kim.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Kim and Skylar duo. That would be great.
What?
Dude, if someone made, like, a fake documentary series about, like, the events that happened throughout Breaking Bad, but in the context of like looking at all the background extras. Like imagine if you get talking heads of like the same people that worked at the Poros Hermanos.
Oh my god!
And they talk about Gustavo Fring as like this boss, and and then eventually they get Skylar White. We get Anna Dunn to come on. Like imagine
AMC did something similar.
Really?
They did one for Better Call Saul's final season marketing. It was called there was I guess this documentary crime show called American Greed back in the day.
Uh-huh.
And they got the same narrator and everything for it, and they did like a 10-minute episode on Saul Goodman.
Wow.
Yeah, you can actually see it on the YouTube.
Send this to me, please.
It's so good.
Well, I know they did like a funny. I'm gonna watch them soon. I have it. It's in my watch list where they did like the training videos if you're working at.
Yes.
Yes. That is genius. I love it.
Oh, I love it.
But you don't see anything like any room for like expanding or.
I mean, you could, but like I feel like this left it off on a good spot. Like even Kim's story feels like it's ended well.
It's
like
14-year saga.
Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
2008
right.
to 2022. Like just a few months ago, we were fresh out of Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like what AMC does with this universe, who knows? But they're already not treating it well.
Well, I hope they don't milk it like fucking Walking Dead and ruin that.
Haven't you heard of Slippin' Jimmy?
Slippin' Jimmy?
Oh, you're so lucky, you poor soul.
Oh no, what is this? Oh no, what is this?
You didn't hear about this, oh my god. When I first heard about it, I thought someone was fucking with me.
What are you talking about?
AMC, without Vince Gilligan or Peter Gould's involvement, did a horribly animated children's show about young Jimmy McGill.
What?
Yes.
They did this already?
Yes. Before the final season was even finished.
Oh, what?
It was like aired on like their AMC Plus or something like that.
Oh, well that's how I was watching the final episodes. I subscribed to that.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything like that.
Yeah, it exists. Like when I think I saw it as like somebody online like reviewing it and making fun of how bad it is, and I was like, no, this isn't real. Like you're fucking with me. And I'm watching, I'm like, oh my god, this exists.
How
no. like, I'm already scared for what they'll try to do, but to me, the universe is done. Like,
Oh.
oh.
Yeah, no. It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
No. In the end, El Camino is a fine, solid little movie. Better Call Saul is a really good, if not great, show. And Breaking Bad, it will go down in history as one of the best, but in my opinion, the best show of all time. And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould and all the cast and the crew that were involved with both of these fucking shows, because this is quality television.
Yes.
That's all I have to say. What would you like to say as like a final thing?
I pretty much have the same thoughts. These are both, like, I consider these both together to be probably the best shows I've ever seen. Like, if someone asks me what my favorite show is, I would probably say it's just both of these. I just consider them interchangeable, like they go together.
Wow,
like,
that's amazing.
yeah, it's like peanut butter and jelly. They just really match each other. And
that's a great analogy. I love that. Well, I guess I like just a peanut butter sandwich right now, but I will definitely give this show another shot, because you really talked so highly about it, again with a different perspective of someone who's watched it way more than me. And I'm so excited to watch it again with another perspective, to rewatch Breaking Bad afterwards. And because there's things that I remembered just recently from Better Call Saul that I'm like, oh, okay, that's connecting, but I know there's way more to discover.
yeah.
There's way more to discover. Probably shit that you don't even know either.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
It's exciting. Wow, yes, I'm right under 2 hours. I'm so excited. I've been keeping these under 2 hours.
Oh, shit.
This whole season. I'm so excited. I am so happy. Thank you. Pat, this was a fucking great conversation, man.
Oh, yeah.
I think we just touched upon a little bit of everything, and that's great about this.
I had a lot of fun talking about this. I could have talked a lot more, for sure.
And I've said it before, and I won't, like, persuade or anything, but, like, if I were to have, like, a full-time companion to be like a co-host of Pop Talk, it would be you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
But I know, when I remember when I was like, hey, do you want to do a full-time podcast with me? You're like, I'm afraid of commitment. No. Like,
this is very true.
I am totally fine with that. You popping in is fine. I'll take that, man. This has been great. Yeah, this has been excellent. And everybody listening, thank you so much for listening, and definitely give these fucking shows a shot if you have not seen them. Sorry, we spoiled them for you. But also subscribe to So to Speak, and we got some more stuff on there that I'd love for you to listen to. And I'll see you on the next one. Take the last line.
It's all good, man.